Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Xia Baolong, director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, today spoke on the tariff war initiated by the United States as the city marked the 10th National Security Education Day. He denounced the U.S. tactics as unreasonable and shameless, saying they aim to take away Hong Kong's life. Xia also said the U.S. oppression of Hong Kong will backfire. Danny Zhou reports.
A ceremony and seminar for the National Security Education Day was held at the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Centre in Wan Chai this morning. Xia Baolong, director of Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, delivered the keynote speech via video link. He said that the past decade has been the most intense period for struggles in relation to national security in Hong Kong. Xia warned that external forces never cease in their attempts to destabilize Hong Kong, and he expressed strong opposition to Washington's suppression of Hong Kong, including the so-called reciprocal tariffs of up to 145% on the SAR, despite Hong Kong, a tariff-free port, being the largest source of the U.S. trade surplus. He called the act shameless bullying and noted, "The United States isn't after the tariffs, it is after our life." He stressed any attempt by external forces to return Hong Kong to past turmoil or hold back the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation is nothing but a pipe dream. He said the US's repeated suppression will only accelerate the demise of its proxies in Hong Kong and will ultimately backfire on itself. Xia said, "Let those American hillbillies wail before China's 5,000-year-old civilization." He stressed the Chinese people will never accept bullying and cannot be intimidated or overwhelmed, saying pressure, threats, and extortion are not the right way to deal with China. Be it tariff war, trade war, or any other type of war, we have nothing to fear, Xia said. He further pointed out, it is extremely naive to think that peace, respect, and development can be achieved by flattering or bowing down to the US. Xia said the so-called sanctions and reciprocal tariffs will not shake the determination of the central government and the Hong Kong SAR government, and the 1.4 billion Chinese people will stand closer with Hong Kong compatriots in upholding national security and safeguarding the prosperity and stability of Hong Kong. Xia declared a victory will definitely belong to the great Chinese people. Meanwhile, he warned there are still undercurrents lurking beneath the surface that pose national security risks, and the struggle is not over yet. Xia noted, those who oppose China and attempt to destabilize Hong Kong have not yet been eliminated. Xia urged fellow citizens to face the problems related to the development and security in Hong Kong while moving forward the implementation of one country, two systems. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Xia Baolong also called upon entrepreneurs in the city to further contribute to the SAR and the nation. The director of the Hong Kong Macau Affairs Office criticized those who betrayed the nation and Hong Kong, warning them of dire consequences. Timothy Lee tells us more.
In his 19-minute-long speech at the National Security Education Day event, Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Director Xia Baolong praised the late Hong Kong businessman Henry Fok, a former vice chairman of the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. Xia hailed Fok's efforts to supply China with strategic wartime supplies when the mainland was blockaded by the West during the Korean War. Xia urged the local community to inherit the same patriotic spirit, especially against external forces that have made attempts to bully China. Xia stressed the Chinese people must stand on the right side of history during tumultuous times, while criticizing traitors who sell out their nation in such key moments. Xia also urged the business and industrial sectors to do more to develop Hong Kong and contribute to the nation. He emphasized that while Washington seeks to suppress China, Hong Kong businesses must continue to put resources into the city and maintain its prosperity. Chief Executive John Lee also criticized Washington's suppression of mainland China and Hong Kong, and noted Hong Kong will continue to improve its judicial and law enforcement systems to better ensure national security. Meanwhile, Dong Jingwei, director of the Office for Safeguarding National Security, pointed out that modern China is not like China in the past and is ready to fight back against aggressors. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Over 300 schools held flag-raising ceremonies on National Security Education Day. This primary school in Causeway Bay was one which organized a ceremony this morning. Apart from students, an ice hockey national security tournament was held in North Point. Organizers say they hope it will help the public understand the concept of national security. Speaking at a national security lecture, Secretary for Security Chris Tang said the public needs to beware of soft confrontations. Federal filings showed U.S. President Donald Trump's administration is proceeding with probes into imports of pharmaceuticals and semiconductors. This as part of a bid to impose tariffs on both sectors on national security grounds. Meanwhile, Trump said he might temporarily exempt the auto industry from tariffs he previously imposed on the sector to give car makers time to adjust their supply chains. The U.S. president added he had talked to Apple CEO Tim Cook and helped him by exempting electronics from some of his China tariffs, stressing his flexibility when it comes to the issue of tariffs. Daniel Rao tells us more.
The filings announce 21-day public comment periods. They mark U.S. President Donald Trump's latest use of Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 as justification for so-called sectoral tariffs aimed at boosting domestic production of goods he says are critical to national security. The filings, which indicate the administration began the investigations on April 1st, follow exclusions unveiled over the weekend for smartphones, computers and other electronics imported largely from China from Trump's steep 125% reciprocal duties. Trump officials had said those products would soon be subject to Section 232 tariffs. Section 232 probes need to be completed within 270 days of their initiation. Meanwhile, Trump welcomed news that tech giant NVIDIA will produce its artificial intelligence supercomputers in the United States for the first time.
NVIDIA, as you know, controls that almost the entire sector, which is one of the most important sectors in the world, between chips and semiconductors and everything else. And they're the biggest. And the other biggest we already have coming in and spending $300 billion, as you know. They announced 2 weeks ago. But NVIDIA is so highly respected, and this was an announcement that a lot of people, I knew it was going to happen, but not to the extent that it happened. It's big.
Trump added he might temporarily exempt the auto industry from tariffs he previously imposed on the sector to give car makers time to adjust their supply chains. Trump also said he had talked to Apple CEO Tim Cook and helped him by exempting electronics from some of his China tariffs, outlining his flexibility when it comes to the issue.
I'm looking at something to help some of the car companies where they're switching to parts that were made in Canada, Mexico, and other places, and they need a little bit of time because they're going to make them here, but they need a little bit of time. So I'm talking about things like that.
What about any Apple products, other cell phones?
Look, I'm a very flexible person. I don't change my mind, but I'm flexible. And you have to be. You just can't have a wall and you'll only go, no, sometimes you have to go around it, under it, or above it. There'll be maybe things coming up. I speak to Tim Cook. I helped Tim Cook recently and that whole business. I don't want to hurt anybody, but the end result is we're going to get to the position of greatness for our country.
The statements hinted at yet another round of reversals on tariffs as Trump's onslaught of import taxes has panicked financial markets and raised deep concerns from Wall Street economists about a possible recession. Daniel, TV News.
The U.S. federal government says it is freezing more than $2.2 billion in grants and $60 million in contracts to Harvard University. This after the institution said it would defy the Trump administration's demands to limit activism on campus. Tracy Furness has more.
In a letter to Harvard, the Trump administration called for broad government and leadership reforms, as well as a requirement to institute what it calls a merit-based admissions and hiring policy. It also includes an audit of the student body and faculty on their views about diversity and a ban on face masks, which appeared to target pro-Palestinian protesters. The demands are part of the Trump administration's effort to investigate anti-Semitism at many universities. The federal government said almost $9 billion in grants and contracts in total were at risk if Harvard did not comply. In a statement to the Harvard community, Harvard President Alan Garber said the university would not bend to the government's demands, adding that the demands violated the university's First Amendment rights and exceeds the statutory limits of the government's authority, which prohibits discrimination against students based on their race, colour or national origin. Harvard is one of several Ivy League schools targeted in a pressure campaign by the Trump administration, which has paused federal funding for the University of Pennsylvania, Brown University and Princeton University to force compliance with its agenda. The administration has detained and deported several foreign students. Trump has promised a more aggressive approach against anti-Semitism on campus and accused former President Joe Biden of letting schools off the hook. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Welcome back. The Immigration Department arrested 43 people on suspicion of working illegally and overstaying in the city. Almost half of the suspects were foreign domestic helpers. 8 were employers. Mo Seng-ai reports.
To tackle illegal working activities, the Immigration Department conducted an 8-day operation across 58 locations, including restaurants and residential units. Authorities seized evidence such as recognizance forms, working gloves, and mobile phones in the process. Among the 43 suspects, 35 were illegal workers aged between 20 and 60. Majority of them were Indonesians and Filipinos. Authorities said 14 were overstaying formal domestic workers, while 7 still worked as domestic helpers. 2 suspects were imported workers and 1 had a working visa. Some foreign domestic helpers worked as dishwashers in restaurants during the time they were supposed to be doing grocery shopping. Some employers were arrested for sending their domestic helpers to work at eateries or shops. The Immigration Department reminds residents that it is against the law to arrange helpers to work for other people or at other places. The department added 21 people have been convicted of breaching of conditions of stay, with the highest penalty being a prison sentence of 14 months and 3 weeks. Mo Seng-ai, TVB News.
The observatory, the very first hot weather warning of the year, was issued today. A maximum temperature of 33 degrees Celsius was recorded in the afternoon. Summer seems to have arrived early in the city. Many people could be seen dressed in t-shirts and shorts today. Umbrellas become an essential item during the hot weather. Weather authorities issued the very hot weather warning at 1:45 p.m. and removed it at 6 p.m. Looking ahead, the observatory forecasts the weather will be hot and humid on Wednesday, with temperatures ranging between 22 and 29 degrees Celsius. A few showers should be expected on Friday and Saturday. The Hong Kong Dental Association will provide one-time oral examinations and consultations free of charge for local residents. The Oral Health Week is set to be held between the 24th and 29th of this month. It marks the second consecutive year the dental group is organizing free examinations. Hong Kong ID holders can gain access to such services at dental clinics that display the Oral Health Week label. The measure is part of the Dental Association's 75th anniversary celebrations, as they hope to raise the awareness about dental health in the city. A mainland-operated cruise ship, Piano Land, will begin operating from Hong Kong as its home port this month. It is expected to go on 60 voyages this year. The 261-meter-long cruise ship made its way back to the city after the pandemic, with 900 guest rooms and capable of carrying more than 1,800 passengers. The vessel features a swimming pool, bar, and other facilities. Its cinema will showcase Hong Kong's unique culture by regularly playing local films and offers movie-themed decorations for photo-taking opportunities. Piano Land is set to travel to destinations such as Japan and Vietnam this year. The vessel's passenger figures by the end of this year are set to increase by 30% year-on-year. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.